Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting of March 2nd, 2016. Can I have the roll call, please?
Dan Carey.
Present.
Peg Coniff. Here. Salem Derby.
Present.
Jen Hayes. J.P. Kuzinski.
Here.
Joe McCoy.
Here.
Dan Rist.
Here.
Tamara Smith. Here. Joy Winning.
Here.
Okay. Could we please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We have accept a motion for the approval of the minutes of February 17th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Oh, is there, okay.
Yep. Oh.
Good.
Yep.
So I say,
Is there an abstention?
one abstention over here.
Peg abstention, and anyone, and so there's no abstention, one abstention, and anyone against? No, okay. Okay, public speak time. Anyone from the public who would like to address the council for something other than what's on our public hearings, please come to the podium, state your name. Not saying anyway. Okay, communications from elected officials, boards, and committee. I don't believe in correspondence. I don't think we have anything in writing, but I think Councilor Derby wanted to make a few comments.
Well, we were notified yesterday that we were the first municipality to report last night our election results, which I think is a good thing.
Way to go, Barbara!
I also wanted to say that the Easthampton varsity basketball team is having a playoff game on Friday night at home, and I believe it's at the boys, Easthampton boys varsity. It's at 7. So if you want to come out and support your varsity Eagles, come out Friday night at Easthampton High School. Yeah.
When, where are they in the playoffs? I mean, is this the first?
This is the first round, and
That's
they're
the second round.
but they got a bye for the first round. So.
Awesome.
Terrific.
All right.
Okay, and I guess as we had said before, are there any precinct councilors or at-large councilors who would like to make a statement or updates? Councilor Kwasinski?
Mr. President, I'd like to ask the council to observe a moment of silence. Many of you are aware that a Western Mass native who was serving on her first day as a police officer in Virginia responded to a domestic violence call, and 3 officers were shot and she was killed. Her wake is being held in Agawam this Sunday, and her funeral is being held in Springfield this Monday. A contingent of officers from Easthampton will be going to that service. I understand that they're working on having an escort from Bradley Field when her body will be flown in on Sunday.
That's great.
This underscores the dangers that all our officers face. And it's so sad that she lost her life on her first shift.
Okay.
Moment of silence, please.
Observe a moment of silence. Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or statements during this period of time for communications? Okay, none being seen. Reporting of standing committees, Finance, Councilor Rist. Oh, I'm sorry, wait, sorry, I missed Mayor Communications. There are no Mayor Communications. Now move on to standing committees, Councilor Rist.
Thank you, Mr. President. First on the agenda is a request to dissolve the kennel donation to the to amend the donation account, which we received at the last meeting. The Finance Committee voted 3-0 to accept the amended donation account. So the councilors are reminded this was about funds raised by students years ago for the Hayden Animal Trust Fund, and rather than try to change that fund, they would want it to be specific to dogs, and the Animal Trust Fund is for all animals. So this was the solution presented by the Finance Director to amend the donation account so that it can be specific to this particular donation, and which was the request by the students and their mentors. So if there's no other questions, I make a motion. I move that we approve pursuant to the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, Approval is hereby given to change the purpose of the kennel donation account. Donation account 2843 shall be for the purpose of receiving donations in support of general care and treatment of dogs.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and second to amend the donation account as just previously read. Any additional questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, motion passes.
Thank you. The other item on that item of the Hayden Animal Trust Fund, now we just simply have to update the language, and the mayor is helping us with that. We will be dealing with the review of stipends, and I will notify all of the counselors when that becomes something that we will deal with, because one of the topics is council stipends. So we need to find out how the council feels. I'd like to have a lot of counselors attend that meeting. Besides the two items that are up for public hearing, I would like to make a motion that the $650 for clerical services to the planning board and the $8,157.24 for payment of vacation time be set for public hearing at our next meeting at 6:15 in these chambers.
Second.
Okay, a motion and second to set two previously read appropriations for public hearing on March 16th in these chambers. Additional questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion passes.
Lastly, the Finance Committee did provide a role of the City Council Finance Committee, and it amended it and changed it and is now ready to submit it to the Rules Committee this evening, which we will do, and I'll announce that when I have my rules report.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes.
Thank you. Finance, Public Safety,
Thank you.
Councilor Carey.
Public Safety Committee last met February 18th for review of the street acceptance protocol. That's ongoing. There's a current draft that's being reviewed by the councilors on that committee. To skip the Paul Street extension, which is on public hearing today. The Pleasant Street on-street parking, that also we're still looking into the current rules before we dive into any new ones.
Okay.
Thank you.
That concludes appointments. Councilor Smith.
Okay, thank you. We met this evening at 5:30 to discuss 3 mayoral appointments. And so at this point, I would like to bring each of these 3 appointments to the full board for consideration. I'll do them one at a time. The first mayoral appointment is Catherine Hobbs for the Manhan Rail Trail with a term expiration of 12/31/18.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second for the appointment of Catherine Hobbs to the Manhan Rail Trail Committee. Any additional questions or comments? I know when we reviewed it that she was, mentions that she is a active user of the trail, so we thought she would be a good addition. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Okay, the second appointment that we considered tonight was for Tricia Rogers to the Board of Health with a term expiration of 12/31/17. And as a committee, we felt that since this is a very intricate appointment, we really wanted to have an opportunity to talk more with Tricia Rogers. So we will be reaching out to her to come talk to our subcommittee. So we won't be moving that forward to the full city council until we have an opportunity to do that. And the final of those 3 that I wanted to talk about of mayoral appointments is for John Casey Douglas, who is being appointed to the Development
and Industrial.
Thank you. Economic and Industrial Development Committee, and that's for a term expiration of 12/31/18. So
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve John Casey Douglas to the EDIC. Any additional comments? I think we all mentioned too that, obviously we know his restaurants. He's a long-standing, long-term business person in Easthampton. We thought it'd be a great fit. And also for the Tricia Rogers, if any of the councilors are interested in coming to the appointment subcommittee, that is scheduled, or tentatively, if everything works out, for March 16th at 5:15 p.m. in Conference Room B, if you would like to attend that interview. So all those in favor of Casey Douglas, EDIC?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
And the last two appointments that we considered were two city council appointments for Barbara Lombard and Marianne Giza for the position of city clerk and assistant city clerk with a term expiration of 3/31/19.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any additional comments, Councilor Winnie?
As I said in our appointment subcommittee meeting, Barbara has been, she first started as assistant city clerk to Phil Campbell when we were way back when as a select board and town meeting, and she's been through all of the transitions. Came on board at our very first meeting as our city clerk. And she has always kept us on task and made sure that we all are doing what we're supposed to be doing, and that we're not breaking any of the Mass General laws or anything else that have come down our way. Barbara is a very valuable piece of our body workings here. So I'm absolutely thrilled that she wants to continue on as our city clerk. So.
Councilor Kwasinski?
From the day I first came to Easthampton and met Barbara back when there were selectmen, Barb was just a perfect representative of the community. Just was warm and welcoming and open with a big smile to everyone who came to her door. And to this day, she still does that as far as I can see. So I am just really thrilled to have that kind of a person in one of our departments that's so public and working for us in the city council. I really appreciate all that you do to keep us organized and on track, but to represent our community. So thank you so very much for being here.
You're here.
Yeah, I mean, actually, as you reference to, for many people, Barb is the first face of our community they see, and I think you do an outstanding job as representing the city in your office. The comment did come up. Now, how long Marianne has been with the city? Almost as long as you, or do you know?
94.
94. So again, a long-term employee. So anyway, are there any other comments concerning this seemingly overwhelming appointment? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes.
Okay, and the next order of business in the appointment subcommittee was that we've been reviewing our description of our subcommittee. So we got to a final phase of that this evening and move that forward to rules and regulations. So we'll be doing that after the meeting.
Okay.
Does that, just out of curiosity, if I'm moving it there, at this point, do I need to make a formal motion to move it to another subcommittee?
No, you're sending it, if I may, Mr. President. I was going to say this to the Rules Committee. The chairman of the committee should simply email it to me. I will put them all together as a change in our rules, which is what it's going to be, a part of the rules, and submit it to the full council for review. The Rules Committee already has it in their agenda, so they'll review each one. But as I receive them, if you email me yours, I'm going to send it to all the councilors as I get the roll, so you'll have it ahead of time. And then once I get the whole package, I'll create a rule change that we would vote on.
Okay. Councilor Smith, did you want to move these two?
Yep, still going. Okay, we have two new mayoral appointments to forward to subcommittee. So I'd like to do that in the form of a motion to consider Audrey Hyvenen for the PLAE Board of Directors with a term expiration of 12/31/17, and Fran Hutchins for the Easthampton Affordable and Fair Housing Partnership with a term expiration of 12/31/18.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to move the two new mayoral appointments to appointment subcommittee. Additional comments or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Okay, and our last order of business is that our next meeting will be held on March 16th at 5:15.
Great. That concludes. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to open public hearing.
Move that we hold the public hearing?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Finance, Councilor Rist.
Thank you, Mr. President. Of course, I covered up my... First item on the agenda is an item which we discussed and passed 3-0 regarding the fire department's request for medical expenses of $6,500 from the reserve fund. rather than, unfortunately, Chief Motter was not available at the Finance Committee. It was well explained by the mayor. But since he's here this evening, I invite him to the podium to explain this request. You'll do a better job than I.
I'll sell yourself short, Constance. Good evening. The request you have before you is for two items. One of them is medical expenses, the other is repairs to portable equipment. The repairs to portable equipment was out of the poor quality, I'll call it, of gasoline that we have. It damages the carburetors in our small engines. We had to have the extrication tool, or Jaws of Life, sent out, had to have a new gas tank put in, had to have a new carburetor put in, because the gasoline today with the ethanol is not very friendly to older engines that have a lot of rubber parts. So when I come back for my budget, you'll see that my gas line went up because we are now purchasing ethanol-free gasoline from a vendor. Unfortunately, it was not discovered until after the damage was done to the smaller equipment. The larger portion of it is for medical expenses incurred through injuries and illnesses. Very often, we do not hit the deductible for our workman's comp, which I believe is $5,000, James? $2,500 per injury per employee. Workman's comp rate, that's a pretty substantial long-term injury to hit that. Unfortunately, this year we have had more than our fair share of line-of-duty injuries and illnesses, so those bills have racked up. Unfortunately, none of them hit the $2,500, which is why the appropriation is there. In a normal year, the amount that's budgeted covers co-pay reimbursement for fit-for-duty physicals and usually 2 injuries, and we've exceeded the 2 injuries this year by quite a bit.
Additional questions for the chief? I have one quick. I'm just curious. Oh, I might go first. I just have one quick question. Does the how many of these machines do we have left that need ethanol-free?
Pretty much every small piece of equipment that we have, the generators, the power packs for the 2 Jaws of Life, our small pumps, they're all running on the ethanol-free fuel now.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it took 2 of them to get gummed up and the rubber gaskets destroyed before we realized that we had to run ethanol-free fuel in them.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all on ethanol-free now.
Well, I did see Councilor Coniff next, actually.
No, that was actually going to be my question, if there was others that we might see this potential problem hit.
No, fortunately, we figured it out and we have now buy ethanol-free gas.
Okay.
Councilor Rist?
Is the ethanol-free gas specific to the small equipment and not for the trucks?
Right.
That's a
It's,
separate gas line.
We buy it in 5-gallon containers. and-
Okay,
and
that's what I
One
thought.
vendor actually calls it SEF, small engine fuel. Because anybody that has a lawnmower or a snow blower, if you don't drain it and let the gas sit, you used to just get the varnish. Now all your rubber gaskets are gone. So it's the
Now you
alcohol
tell
in
me.
there is.
You're doing a public notice now, right?
Yeah,
Alcohol and rubber gaskets do not play well together.
Good to know. Councilor Winnie, you have a question?
No, I was gonna ask you that, is there any long-term damage from using the ethanol in the small engines, that you might see, or that you're gonna incur any more maintenance
All the
issues,
manufacturers
or-
are recommending using ethanol-free gas now because of the fact that the ethanol and rubber don't play well together.
Okay,
Most of them are recommending it. They call it small engine fuel because ethanol-free doesn't sound very good, so they just call it small engine fuel.
okay.
Councilor Smith, did I see your hand up? No?
Okay, Council.
Anyone, Councilor Kwasinski?
Chief, this problem with the ethanol, with the ethanol gasoline, seems like you've solved it, but is there some way you could describe the process of your solving it? Because I see applications for the rest of the community. Is it something you can look up online? How did you find this particular source? And maybe there are other sources. How can we help the public?
Well, the vendor that did the repairs is the one recommending, we used to put a stabilizer in there.
Yeah.
Because, and our equipment runs every week. At a minimum, all of our small equipment runs once a week. And the vendor recommended going away from the stabilizer and going with the ethanol-free. And I guess among the small engine repair business community, it's widely known that the gasoline that you get at the gas station out of the pump for long-term is not good for your older small engines.
So how can we help the public find?
Well, I don't want to
Suppliers.
throw out the vendor that I'm using in order to...
I'm
but,
not suggesting that you mention any particular one.
I
but-
know local auto parts dealers sell smaller containers of ethanol-free fuel to add to your small engines.
Right, okay, good. I didn't know.
Any additional questions or comments for the chief? No, I guess that's it. Thank you very much. If there's anyone here from the public who would like to address the council concerning that appropriation, please feel free to come to the podium. Seeing the Councilor Rist.
I'll make a motion. I hereby request the council approve an interdepartmental transfer. The amount requested is $6,500 to be transferred from the reserve fund, to be transferred to the fire department medical expenses, $4,000, and to the fire department equipment account, $2,500, for a total of $6,500.
Second.
There a motion is second for the interdepartmental transfer of $6,500. Additional questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Second is a supplemental appropriation request for $25,602. This has to do primarily with a retirement, and I'll ask Department of Public Works Head Joe P. to come up. I don't want to butcher your last name because I do it all the time.
Good
Good evening, Joe Pipchinsky, Director of Public Works.
Chinsky.
We
Well, you're-
we recently had 2 employees in the water department retire. They were long-term employees, so they had a lot of vacation time stacked up. They decided to push their retirement date out and use that time, so they weren't on the job for that period of time, but because they were using vacation time. And with 5 employees, when you take 2 long-term people out, you got quite a hole. So we wanted to fill that hole as soon as we could with new employees so we could keep doing what we needed to do. So to do that, we've had overlapping, overlapping payrolls, if that's what you want to call it. So this just kind of gets us out of that.
So if I could rephrase it, it's supplemental payroll because you have to use the current payroll to pay the retirees, so you need new payroll to pay the new people because there's an overlap in their tenure, as you say.
Correct, absolutely correct.
Additional questions? That's all right.
Why is it referred to as retirement payouts if it's a supplemental to essentially pay new employees coming in? Or is it to pay the,
No, it's actually to pay them. The new employees coming in, we're using the existing payroll.
okay,
But we
Okay.
had to come up with something supplemental to pay them out.
okay, all right.
Additional questions or comments? Thank you very much. If there's anyone from the public who would like to address the council on this appropriation, feel free to come to the podium. That being seen, Councilor Rist.
The Finance Committee did approve this 3-0. I hereby move for a supplemental appropriation request that the full council approve it. The amount requested is $25,602.88 to be appropriated fund from enterprise retained earnings, $25,602.88, to water personnel services, $19,102.88, sewer personnel services, $6,500, for the total of $25,602.88. Provide funds for the retirement payouts.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second for supplemental appropriation of $25,602.88. Additional questions or comments concerning appropriation? That being seen, Councilor Rist. Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
That concludes my public hearing.
Okay. The last public hearing is public safety. Councilor Carey.
So this is, excuse me, to accept the Paul Street extension as a public way. And you can see from all the papers that were, the documents that were emailed to you, this has been a long-standing issue. It was on over a year ago, October 2014, and came back this past fall. I'll just draw your attention to the memo from October 20th. It's my understanding, being new to the committee and new to the Public Safety Committee, that part of the delay was getting a lot of these questions answered, that this memo dated October 20th, 2015 from Jessica Allen, the city planner, sufficiently answered a lot of those questions. Since this new committee has formed, Councilors Hayes, Derby, and I have gone over these answers and other questions we've had. All three of us have visited the site of Paul Street, the Paul Street extension off of Beechwood Ave, off of South Street. And I think the only issue left is who's going to maintain the cul-de-sac, and that's still being worked on. And I know that Attorney Amanda Donis-Kemp is here to answer any questions that councilors may have. She'll know better than I will.
Okay. Councilor Kemp, would you like to make any statements?
Hi, my name is Donis Kemp. I represent David Garska Builders. Actually, we already know who's going to maintain the cul-de-sac. It's going to be attached to whoever purchases Lot 6. So it's going to be transferred along with that lot.
Are there any additional questions for the attorney while she's here? Councilor Kozinski.
Let me see, so the person who buys Lot 6 is going to be responsible for maintaining the cul-de-sac? That's that center strip?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any performance guarantees? How does that all work? I'm just...
Well, because it's conveyed as a portion of their property. So in other words, it's actually going to be deeded the same way their lot would be deeded to them. And so anyone who's going to purchase it's going to be disclosed up front that it's going to be their responsibility to maintain it.
Which would include what sort of duties? To maintenance. I mean, if I say one person says, I like to see grass grow, and they let it go 6 or 8 feet.
It belongs to, I mean, essentially it belongs to, so whoever purchases it gets to determine how it's going to appear unless there's enough. I mean, the way it would work on anyone else's lawn, if you're a neighbor and it impedes your ability to back out of your driveway or anything like that, you have the right to complain to the city. And so the same rule, I believe, would apply here. I mean, I can't speak to every situation as to what would happen, but I would hope if you're going to maintain your lawn, you're going to maintain the cul-de-sac as well.
I would certainly hope so too, except that the cul-de-sac seems to be more public than my own private lawn, front yard, or backyard. And I don't think we have any ordinances that address this subject. Just something to think about for a moment.
I have another question regarding that.
Just, I gotta go here. Are you done, Councilor?
I'm done.
Okay. Councilor Rist.
My question is this common practice? I don't know if you know this or if the committee knows this, that a cul-de-sac is maintained, just to make sure that I understand it. This is the little island in the middle of the cul-de-sac. So I noticed there was one on Campbell Drive, and I know where my daughter lives. Camelot Drive, and I guess it's maintained by the property owners. And I'm just wondering if that's a common practice to have one property owner. If there's only one, is there only one lot on this cul-de-sac? There's not 3 lots around it or
So
something?
there are different ways to handle it. Some do it by homeowners association, so depending on if there's other land that's going to be owned by the association. So say you have a cluster development where the excess land on the outside also exists and is conveyed into association, you need someone else to maintain that. So in some instances, homeowners associations are formed for that purpose. But because we're not talking about anything other than the area in the cul-de-sac, I believe it was determined at the time the planning board did their approval, was it not? Mr. Garska is here, and he did his own approval with the planning board, but I believe at that point, during the planning board process is when it was determined that this is how it should be handled.
And the planning board approved that?
And the planning board, it was part of their decision, I believe.
See that in Jesse's
If I
letter.
may be misspeaking, but I thought that was how it was determined.
Okay. I just was curious.
Councilor Smith.
Because I have children who like to ride bikes a lot, I'm just wondering about the legalities of a cul-de-sac that is owned by a private homeowner. So if a lot of times kids will take all of their bikes and just dump them into that middle portion and then go to each other's houses. If an injury occurred on the cul-de-sac, would that homeowner be liable?
With all honesty, litigation is not my area of expertise, and I couldn't speak with any, I don't have enough knowledge to be able to answer that question for you, because that is kind of outside the scope of what I do. My first guess would be that yes, because the homeowner owns that cul-de-sac, that their liability insurance would also encompass that area.
Okay.
I saw Councilor Coniff.
Do you know the dimensions of that area?
The cul-de-sac, I believe you have
Well,
a copy of the plan.
Of the part that person would have to maintain?
it should be referenced on the plan. You have a copy of the plan.
It doesn't show the,
Actual island.
it shows the cul-de-sac doesn't show an island in the middle.
I don't know. Do you, David, know what the area is? I don't know if you want to.
Probably around 30 feet in diameter. It's quite small.
Counselor Whitting?
Well, my grandfather developed David Richardson Circle. He put a cul-de-sac at the end of it, only because the way that the property was situated, that it's the only way to get around. And growing up there, my life, the neighbors always at the other end of Richardson Circle always just mowed it and maintained it. And it was not conveyed at that time to any one person, but it was just, the neighbors just mowed it. So I guess we never even thought about it back then, but so.
Counselor Riss?
So, I thought this was about maintenance, but you're certain, and I'm not sure, that the owner of Lot 6 owns the cul-de-sac, or does the city own the cul-de-sac? I thought we were just making sure that the owner of Lot 6 maintained it. So I'm not,
We are
It is an
conveying to
owner-
you the roadway,
so
not
the
necessarily the cul-de-sac.
cul-de-sac.
If you would like us to convey you to the cul-de-sac and have the homeowner maintain it,
No, I
mean,
just
it would
wanted to
require-
know
require
that's what, so it is, they are owning it. Okay, sure,
That was my understanding, is that was your understanding as well, right, David?
okay.
I'm looking for the planning board decision, because I believe I have a copy of it here.
Counselor Kwasinski?
Just to understand, my idea of a cul-de-sac is the circle around. I think of the center as the center of the cul-de-sac, and almost like a little island. We are talking about the island and not the roadway around. We're conveying
Correct.
to the city the roadway.
Correct.
And the unit to Lot 6, the island.
The grassy area in the middle.
Counselor Cox?
And that Lot 6 has yet to be purchased?
It has not been sold yet.
Has Lot 5 been sold?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
Would it,
So-
we've sold
so past-
4 out there, David? 3? 4. Yes, 4.
So past Lot 4, there's nothing going on, the island is growing or doing whatever it does, unmaintained until those get sold, more or less? I guess I shouldn't, I don't know if I can direct.
Can you ask it?
Not,
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry, sir. If you can just come to this podium just for the record and just state your name and address. Thank you.
David Garska, a developer, live on 528 East Street. The reason I haven't fully developed it yet is because I didn't know if the homeowner will just want to have grass. I have a sour wood tree that makes nice red foliage in the fall. So if they wanted to, they could make a larger area that would be, shrubbery, and they would just have the outside to mow. Or if they don't want, I have some mulch around that tree, then it would be just mostly the little tree and all grass. So that's why I'm leaving it to that homeowner, how much maintenance do they want to do. If they want to keep it very simple, then it'll just be the little tree in the center, and then they can mow all around it with a little bit of mulch, and that would be very simple maintenance.
Okay.
And we put that to that house because they're looking out right on it. So that gives them the incentive to keep maintenance of it so that it looks nice.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments for either of our guests tonight? Okay, I guess not. If there's anyone else from the public who would like to address this issue, please come to the podium. If you could just come to the podium and state your name and address, please.
I'm Garrett Stover. I'm a volunteer with the Piscomic Conservation Trust, and I handle most of the signs. And on Paul Street Extension is a secondary entrance to Pomeroy Meadow Conservation Area. And we've been waiting on tenterhooks for the street to be accepted because Mr. Garska quite understandably didn't want the public invited in via the trail that will go from the cul-de-sac to the conservation area if he was still liable and construction was underway. Things are a lot more settled there now. our sign contractor has actually moved to Norwich, Connecticut, so hopefully I can still get the entrance signs that they've already fabricated. But we're eager to have the entrance formalized so that we can make clear the rules and expectations in terms of use of the conservation area, because there are people coming in that entrance already. So we want to make that safer and clearer.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else from the public who would like to address the council on this issue? Please feel free to come to the podium. Okay, not seeing any. I believe it's...
In case we need to bring anybody forward, Dan, I guess you would know this, Councilor Carey, excuse me. The planning board has approved this.
Yes.
So therefore, Jessica Allen, by virtue of the fact that she's an overseer of the planning department, given that her October 20th memo asked for these things, she's okay. And as far as I'm concerned, if she's okay with the cul-de-sac decision and how it's being maintained, I'm assuming there's probably precedent for that, and I'm certainly okay with it. So, given that, you know, there's no reason not to accept this evening, as far as you know, because she's accepted it and the planning board's accepted it.
Correct. And at our last public safety meeting, we're going over now the street acceptance protocol, and we discussed how this street acceptance falls in line with our current protocol, everything that it needs to.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay, Councilor Kuzinski.
I just would like to thank Mr. Garska. I've known him personally as a developer in this community. It is great to work with developers who are responsible and responsive to the community, and I express my appreciation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Carey.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the Paul Street extension as a public way.
Actually, Dan,
Do you need me to?
read that.
I didn't get that.
Not the
Second.
very first part.
Wait, we have to do a better
My
motion.
first motion.
Not that simple.
Starting like.
That's why I always ask Barbara, send me the motion you want me to do.
It's never simple.
So I make a motion pursuant to the applicable provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 41 and 82. The City Council approve the layout of new public ways to be known as Paul Street and accept this deed in conformance thereto.
Second.
Second. Okay. Any additional discussions or
Yes.
comments? Councilor Derby.
I just want to say that the subcommittee voted 3-0 to approve this.
Okay. Additional comments or questions? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. So moving on, I believe we are at ordinance, Councilor Derby.
Yes, we are. Thank you, Mr. President. So the ordinance subcommittee did meet on February 24th. We discussed the zoning ordinance relating to signs, and we also discussed the food truck ordinance. Now, the sign ordinance that we were reviewing for inconsistencies has been brought to us by the city planner in relation to a recent Supreme Court ruling, Reed versus the Town of Gilbert, which actually changes some of the terminology that we use in the sign ordinance and renders it not applicable anymore. So we, at the direction of the city planner and in cooperation with her, would like to move to have this, the sign ordinance sent to the planning board so we can review it in conjunction with them to make it so it's compliant with the Supreme Court decision, Reed versus the Town of Gilbert in 2015. I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion, a second, to forward the zoning ordinance, section 10.0 signs to planning board for their input on relating to the new changes in laws. Additional comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.
Our next meeting is going to be March 9th at 6 p.m., where Barbara tells us we can meet.
Okay.
And at that, we are going to review the responsibilities of the ordinance committee, so we can send those over to rules, and we will continue to look at the food truck ordinance as well.
Okay,
That concludes.
thank you. Property, Council Kwasinski.
No report this evening, Mr. President?
Right, Rules Government Relations, Council Rist.
As I indicated, we did receive from the Finance Committee a role of the City Council Finance Committee final document, and I will send that as a document, email it to all. Once I receive all of them, as I receive them, I'll send them out, and then I'll create a rule. I wanted to mention to the Property Committee that I believe there is a Property Committee role that was written out that was not submitted as a rule, so it might be easy. Just like to get this done soon, so if all the chairs could. I don't know who's left. If ordinance is getting going, public safety needs to do one, and property.
Yeah, appointments are good, appointments.
We got appointments this evening, or I'm getting it, so. Thank you, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Old business, we're still working actually on assembling the number of people that are required by the charter for that committee and the renaming the boardwalk, as well as, again, my fault, reaching out to the ex-mayor for some more input from him. We covered new business under mayoral appointments. So unless there's any other comments or questions to be said, I would entertain a motion to
Move
adjourn.
to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes.